Hello everybody, I'm Ajit K. Mishra. I'm here again with another session on writing skills. So in this session I'll be talking about writing pitfalls and the dangers associated with the writing pitfalls or the writing errors that most people tend to commit, and how we can overcome those pitfalls with just a bit of attention so that whatever we write becomes absolutely error-free and becomes impressive, and it turns out to be highly effective. So let's take a look at these writing pitfalls. There are three writing pitfalls that we can think of when it comes to writing. The first pitfall is related to usage. How we use a word is very, very important. If we do not use a word properly, it will definitely lead to some kind of problem, some kind of misunderstanding or miscommunication. Spelling is the second pitfall that we need to avoid, because there are occasions when spelling is not properly done, as a result of which it leads to either miscommunication or misunderstanding. Similarly, punctuation is one of the most critical factors that determine the effectiveness of any writing. If punctuation or conventions or practices are not properly observed throughout a writing piece, that will lead to severe issues, and it will sometimes lead to disasters because of the wrong use of punctuations. So we need to take care of these three very important things: usage, spelling and punctuation. We'll start by focusing on usage and the various writing pitfalls associated with usage. We'll start with informal words. So we generally use words in our everyday writing without thinking whether we are using the formal form or the informal form, or we are creating a mix of the formal and the informal. This is also practiced when it comes to professional writing or even academic writing, because most writers end up using either formal words for informal occasions or informal words for formal occasions. And sometimes, even worse, they end up mixing formal and informal expressions in the same document. So we need to be very, very cautious about this particular problem, this particular usage issue associated with the use of formal and informal expressions in the same document. So I can give you a few examples. This list is not exhaustive. You can't go on and prepare an exhaustive list for your reference afterwards. So, for example, informal is get, formal is receive, informal is need, formal is require, talk about informal, discuss formal, get in touch informal, contact is formal. So when you look at the informal words on the left and then you look at the formal substitutes on the right, you see the difference yourself, because most often the formal expressions are phrases, idioms. So, and then we can always find a better expression, a one-word expression which is far more formal, and we can replace the informal expression with the formal whenever there is a need for that particular thing in a document. So we need to be very, very careful when it comes to the use of informal and formal words in a document. If you're writing a formal document, for example, you're writing a business letter, you're writing a business email, or a formal email, it is not a good idea to use certain informal expressions like the use of words or the use of contractions, which is a part of punctuation. So it's not a good idea to use don't in formal writing. It's always a good idea to use do not in formal writing. Similarly, when it comes to the use of words in formal writing, we need to distinguish between the nature of kids and children in formal writing. So children is formal, kids informal. So we need to be familiar with these practices so that whenever we create a document, we can maintain a strict gap between the use of the informal and the formal. The second language pitfall that troubles most writers is the use of slang. With the advent of social media, we all know that slang words have very smoothly crept into our everyday life. So now they have become an inseparable part of our lives. We generally use them in everyday conversation, slangs. So as a result of this, there's excessive use of slangs in everyday conversation, and we also come across the use of slangs in all kinds of documents that are posted on social media. So slangs have become an inseparable part of our everyday life. So as a result of this overexposure to slangs, we have developed a tendency to use slangs even in formal writings or on formal occasions. So it's not a good idea to use slangs in formal writing. So one needs to understand the difference between slangs and the formal substitutes which we are supposed to use in formal writing. For example, busted is a slang for ugly, check it out is a slang for watch or look at, stuff is a slang for things, pro is a slang for professional, and then crack up, dude, cool, screw up, they all are slangs, and we have far more formal expressions for all these slangs. It's all about developing or enhancing one's familiarity with this distinction, so that whenever there is a need to use a formal expression, we'll never go and use a slang in place of a formal expression, and that will give credibility and that will give greater acceptance to our documents. So therefore, it's not a good idea to use slangs when it comes to professional writing or formal writing. A third type of language pitfall is cliché. We all are familiar with cliché. A cliched expression is an overused or beaten down expression, an expression that has been used so much so that it has lost both its currency and its interest or significance. So therefore, cliched expressions are generally not preferred in professional writing. So in creative writing or in popular speeches, cliches are acceptable, but when it comes to professional writing, cliches are a big no. So you can also think of not using cliches when you sit down and create professional documents. So there are a few cliches that are very popularly overused. So to cite a few examples, it's a win-win situation. In the business world, these are the most popularly used cliches. But then the business world is also apprehensive of using such cliched expressions any further. So it's not a good idea to use cliches in the professional documents now. So it's a win-win situation. Why don't you think outside the box? So it's a value-added idea or scheme. Take it to the next level is something that we most often come across in the business world. So why don't you break down the silos, or it has made a paradigm shift. So in our organization, failure is not an option. So if you come across such statements, you understand a cliche has been used. And literally, one of the most heavily used cliches today, literally. So my door is always open, so you can enter anytime you wish. So the data never lies is another such cliched expression, which is beaten down and it has lost its currency or importance. A fourth type of language pitfall that we often observe in writing is redundancy or redundant expressions. A redundant expression is one which is characterized by the use of unnecessary padding. So unnecessary use of words. So sometimes in order to add some more flesh, people use such words or such expressions to their writing. And there is absolutely no need to use that. We generally call this the unmarried bachelor syndrome, because you either call somebody unmarried or a bachelor. There is no need to call a person unmarried bachelor. When you call your friend an unmarried bachelor, you are using a redundant expression, because one of these two expressions, either unmarried or bachelor, is redundant here, is useless here, because the other word is sufficient enough to convey the meaning to your readers. So you can think of avoiding such writing pitfalls in your document, especially redundancy is a major problem when it comes to writing or creating written documents. I'll give you a few examples of redundant expressions. For example, advanced planning. A planning is generally done in advance. So there is no need to say advanced planning. Free gift. A gift is generally free. It comes to us for no cost. So it is generally free. So there is no need to say that this is a free gift. Similarly, brief summary. A summary is always a brief document. So there is no need to say that I want you to write a brief summary of this particular speech. No, the moment you say I want you to write a summary of this speech, that is more than enough. So, and then close scrutiny. When you scrutinize something, you're actually adopting a close look at it. So all scrutinies are close scrutinies. There is no need to mention close here. Similarly, true fact. A fact is always believed to be true. There is no need to use true with the fact. And then two opposites. The moment I say opposites, I actually mean two. Two things that are opposed against each other, therefore they are opposites. So there is no need to use two opposites. And then consensus of opinion. Whenever there is a consensus, it is generally a consensus of opinion. That means different opinions come together and merge and turn out to be a consensus. So a consensus means an agreement of opinions. And then new innovation. And innovation is always a new thing. There is no need to add new to innovation. And this is one redundant expression that is universally used, and most people use it without realizing that they are using a redundant expression. End result. So end result is one of the most popularly used redundant expressions in professional spheres. Most people use it and they don't even realize that this is not the right expression. A result happens at the end. So there is no need to say end result. And even funnier, there are some people who say that, when are you returning back? So the moment you say return, you are coming back. So you mean you're coming back. So there is absolutely no need for anybody to use a return back. These are redundant expressions. So what I mean to say is that we all need to take care of such redundant expressions, because most often we are not aware that we have used a redundant expression. And that's the reason why most professional documents carry instances of redundant expressions. So we can think of avoiding that pitfall. So that's all in this session. So I'm sure you have taken note of each of these language or writing pitfalls. Plus, you've also taken note of those two useful tools that we can think of using in our writings so that we improve our writings, and at the same time we can also take care of these language pitfalls or writing pitfalls that we need to overcome so that our writing becomes absolutely error-free and it becomes highly acceptable by everyone. With that, I say goodbye to you for now. So thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.